With the Himalayan Tahr now being present on Te Awaroa, a lot of you are probably wondering how this map compares to Sundarpatan, and is this map better to hunt the species in comparison with Sundarpatan? Well, on this guide, we're gonna go over every single location where it's possible to find the Himalayan Tahr here on Te Awaroa, and we're gonna see if it is actually a better option to hunt them here in comparison with Sundarpatan. So we're gonna start by going over some basic information about the Himalayan Tahr as a species. The Himalayan Tahr is one of the heaviest class 4 animals, reaching weights up to 140 kg, which makes it heavier than, for example, the whitetail and the blacktail deer. These tahrs are a very scary species, being by far one of the animals with the sharpest senses on the entire game, which combined with the fact that they don't have a train time, definitely makes it one of the most challenging species to hunt. You know, grinding for a Great One Tahr on Sundarpatan has been a very tedious task for a lot of people, so a lot of you may be wondering if grinding these tahrs here on Te Awaroa is at least a bit easier in comparison with Sundarpatan. That is honestly a very good question, which at the end of the day comes down to how open and how many the locations where it's possible to find them are, and how concentrated the population of these tahrs is on these locations. We know the Himalayan Tahr is a species that tends to live on alpine regions, and here on Te Awaroa, the only two true alpine regions on the map are this area down here, like all this area, which also happens to be part of the Chami home range, and this other mountain up here, all this area. So at the moment I heard the Himalayan Tahr were getting added to this map, my first thought was they have to be on these two regions, they are gonna be on these two regions, there's no way they are on a different place. I mean, we all thought that, and we're actually right. They share the same home range, or at least part of it, with the Chami. However, even though it was completely expected for these tahrs to be located on these regions, the real challenge was to figure which areas are best to hunt them. I spent a lot of time this weekend searching around these regions, mainly trying to find their feed zones, and I can already say that hunting these tahrs here is definitely gonna be different than hunting them on Sundarpatan, and even way easier on many cases. You know, here on Te Awaroa, the Himalayan Tahr has 4 different feed times. The first one is from 400 to 700 in the morning, the second is from 700 to 1100, the third one is from 1400 to 1700, and the fourth one is from 1700 to 2000. Hunting these tahrs while they are feeding is by far the easiest way to find them, since they typically feed on open areas. Not completely open areas on most cases, but definitely a lot more open than the areas they choose to rest. So definitely the first tip I have for you in order to be successful hunting this species on any map is to stick to its times. You can absolutely hunt them at the times they choose to rest, but it's gonna be first of all way more difficult to spot them, and second way more difficult to have chances to shoot them on such dense areas. Alright guys, so going over the first location where I would really suggest you looking for tahr feed zones, this area, up here, has been by far one of the places with the highest concentration of feed zones I found so far, for both the Himalayan Tahr and the Chami. Great spot. You can see there's sort of a valley here, and the best thing about this valley, and this area in general, is that it appears to be the favorite place for the majority of the tahrs and chamis that inhabit this part of the mountain to place their feed zones. You know, when exploring this mountain, one of the things I found is that the tahrs and the chamis are only gonna place their feed zones in 2 places. The first one is right here, right at the base of the mountain, and the second is up here, all this area, around the top. Look at the tahrs. It's fairly easy to spot them here, to be honest. And the best part about this particular region is that you can set up your tents on elevated positions, like for example right here, where you can look down to a lot of the zones located on this valley and spot the tahrs easily. I mean, obviously the exact position of your tents will depend on the exact position of your feed zones, but you shouldn't have a lot of problems to find good positions, knowing the majority of the zones will be down on these areas. You know, you gotta try at different times because, for example, if you try at the feed time that is from 400 to 700, you may not find as many zones as, for example, on the feed time that is from 700 to 1100, or vice versa. For example, a herd that has a feed zone up here from 400 to 700 may have another feed zone from 700 to 1100 as far as down here. So if at some point you find a herd feeding on a bad position where you can shoot it, for example in the morning, what I would suggest you is to try to find a place where that herd feeds in the afternoon, because there's a very good chance it will be feeding on a way better place. Now guys, one suggestion I have for you if you wanna find as many tahr feed zones as possible is to start by placing a tent on a very high elevation position. Like, try to place a tent as high as you can. For example right here. Then once you place a tent, you can simply start running downhill with the advantage of being able to see the majority of the species that inhabit this area from above. You know, having the advantage of having at least a bit of elevation to spot the species can make a huge difference, massive difference. Oh my gosh. Is that what I think it is? A white level 3 Tahr. Rare Tahr. Right here. No way. I was hoping we would see a level 5 first, but hell, a Rare Tahr is also amazing. You know, the Himalayan Tahr has 6 different rare fur variations, which are the red, the dark red, the black, the dark brown, the white, and the albino. My favorites are both the albino and the dark brown, closely followed by this white. So what I'm gonna do in this situation is that I'm gonna place a marker first of all. We are gonna place it exactly where this guy is, and I'm gonna try to get as close as possible to his position, because what I wanna do here is to try to drop him using the Quiz Reaper, the new Quiz Reaper SKS rifle, using iron sights. So we definitely gotta try to get close. We are supposedly like 50 meters out. We have full cover, which is great. I mean, these Tahrs are one of the most scary species on the entire game, maybe the one with the sharpest senses. So you gotta take a very cautious approach when trying to approach him. Let's see. Still not possible to see it. He was there. Like, actually, he was right there. Did he walk that way? Maybe. Yeah, there's something walking towards our position. A female. Safe to say it is part of the same herd. I don't get it, guys. He has to be here, but maybe he already left the zone. It wouldn't make sense because the feed time's still running. So he should still be here, but I don't see it. Oh, mating call. From a male. Yeah, there he is. He's alert. He's definitely not as close as I wanted to use the iron sights, but we're still gonna go for it. We have to go for it. Let's see. Great shot. Beautiful shot on a beautiful Tahr with a beautiful weapon. Look at this beauty. The detail on the fur is simply amazing, and the color is amazing. Very nice looking trophy. Our first trophy Tahr here on the Awaroa. 78.58, a silver scoring white Himalayan Tahr on the Awaroa. Perfect shot, nice double long. Now guys, going over the next location where it's also possible to find a very decent number of Tahr and chamois feed zones. This area up here is another fantastic location, fairly open, that also has a decent number of chamois and Tahr feed zones. It is actually very similar to the last one, it is also sort of a valley. So again, it is fairly easy to spot the animals here. You just have to find a high elevation position, place your tents, and you shouldn't have any issue to spot a decent number of chamois and Tahrs feeding on these areas. Just look at the number of feed zones. So many zones on this area, and the best part about it is that many of these feed zones are on completely open areas where it's very easy to spot the animals. Now guys, we're gonna go over the third and the last location I'ma show you, which is also one of my favorites. You see this hill? Like, just look at this view. You can see everything around it. I honestly don't know many places on this map that are a better place to place a tent than this hill. You know, on this location, both the Tahrs and the chamois are able to feed all around this hill, so having the chance to place a tent here is definitely amazing. For example, here you can see how many zones I have discovered around this hill. Maybe not a lot, but it's definitely a decent amount. Alright guys, so the 3 regions I just mentioned are basically the areas where in my experience it has been easier to find Tahr feed zones, which doesn't mean they are the only ones. You know, I put in the work to explore the entire home range, and I took the time to find as many feed zones as possible for both the Himalayan Tahr and the chamois. Why for both the Tahr and the chamois? Well, the reason is because being two species that inhabit the same home range, the same habitat, The possible positions for the Tahr feed zones are also the possible positions for the chamois feed zones, which means that every single Tahr or chamois zone you find has most likely also a potential to be a zone for the opposite species. So having discovered as many zones for these two species as possible, apart from being able to make the Himalayan Tahr Hotspot map taking as reference the chamois home range I already knew, I also had the opportunity to include a good amount of potential feed zone positions on the hotspot map. You know, the exact position of every single of these dots is based on the position of every single of my Tahr and chamois feed zones on my map, so I would say it's very likely that there are way more potential feed zone locations that I currently don't have on my own reserve. It's definitely gonna take more time to get a completely accurate map, but this is certainly a great reference to get started.